In this franchise's 35-year history of being around, I think the 2020s is one of the most prosperous times to be a Sonic fan. We've had great games since Sonic Frontiers, the movies are doing really well, and Sonic as a franchise is starting to garner some goodwill back. But there's something that this franchise, specifically for the games, that has been holding this series back from reaching its true potential. And for me at least, that has to do with the visual presentation of Sonic the Hedgehog games. Now before you click off the video being like, oh, I've heard this 1,000 times. When I say visual presentation, I'm not just talking about the models. I'm talking about the models, the art style, the polish, the animation, everything. I've been holding back on making this video for years because this is nothing new. There have been countless videos made on this topic and countless Twitter threads, but it's mostly meant for the models. And also, it's gotten to the point where this topic has me so worried for the next game. I'm worried nothing will change. It is one of the parts of the franchise where Sonic Team still hasn't fully won my trust and confidence back, and I believe that goes for a lot of Sonic fans as well. So in today's video, I want to go over every aspect of what makes Sonic's visual presentation not that great, and I will try to offer my 2 cents and feedback so that hopefully something will change. Starting with the big one, because I know you're all just dying to hear what I have to say. It's the models. For this section, I'm purely talking about the visuals of the models. Animation and rigging with these models will be later in this video. What can I say that hasn't been said about these models? People have been saying we've had these models since 2005 with Shadow. That's not true. That's the promotional model, and even going from this game to Unleashed, the promotional models have changed. So I'd say it's a bit fair to say we've had the same promotional model since Unleashed, but we've had the same in-game model since Sonic Forces. The Sonic model that we have known has been the same ever since then, barring some material changes. Now, like I mentioned before, there's been hundreds of threads and videos on this, but the one that I think does it the best is Sock Tiger's whole threads, where he goes into the nitty-gritty about a lot of these Sonic model changes, talking about what makes them good, bad, what makes good and bad shape language. So I'm going to be calling back to a lot of his analysis when talking about the models, but in this video I'm going to be mostly talking about the main guy, Sonic the Hedgehog, because he's the one we will probably be seeing the most in the games. Before we look at the models, we have to understand what makes Sonic's design so iconic and what makes it so appealing. Well, one, obviously his quills being the most distinct feature, his red shoes and his striking blue color, with other stuff like his mono eye, the muzzle, and all that stuff adding to it. But looking into the technical side of it, Sonic's a very round character. His head is round, his body is round. Even in his modern version, while a bit longer, his body is still round, being more of a bean shape. Then we have his quills that are sharp and pointy to represent his edge and attitude, but also give him a good flow to represent a sense of speed. The roundness of his body and the sharpness of his quills contrast his cuteness and edginess to collide perfectly. And even looking into the smaller things, like how his muzzle is shaped and how it curves into his eyes, and how the eyes make a silhouette of an infinity symbol, or how bendy his limbs are to allow him to hit cool poses like this one. Sonic's design is a mastercraft in what makes a good character design. So when we look at this, there are a few problems, undeniably. Like, you can have your opinions on it, right? But you cannot deny it objectively goes against good visual and artistic design, and it starts to become apparent. I'd say this model is the perfect definition of death by 1,000 paper cuts. Starting off, trying to use the circle test, his face fails because his eyes don't curve properly, so they poke out of the circle. His muzzle curve is non-existent, and the transition from muzzle to eye is no longer seamless in a way that makes sense. Like, he's not smirking or smiling, his mouth is closed. It shouldn't be like that. And overall, the muzzle seems so flat, it loses the infinity silhouette. And that permanent butt brow, it's not softer when he's neutral or happy. It's always there. It should only be there when he's determined or angry, not all the time. The quills are a whole other issue that have been argued for years. They have been shortened and straightened out, so they look extremely clumped together. Now, while this makes for a really good side profile, giving it that 3-quill silhouette, that's really it. Looking at it at any other angle, the silhouette breaks. It looks bad from the front because the quills don't drop super low anymore. It looks bad from the top because they're clumped together. It looks bad from a 3/4 angle. From the back, they look bad. At every angle besides the side, Sonic's silhouette fails to look good, and for some reason that middle quill is positioned really high up and it looks really weird, leaving some negative space where there shouldn't be. But looking at everything else, his hands are so big that he can't fold his hands properly with them looking natural. His body loses that bean shape and looks more like a box, and overall I think his limbs are a bit too short. They should be like 10 to 20% longer at least, not 06 long, but a little bit longer. Going forward, I truthfully think that the entire Sonic cast needs a full-blown art style change to look more in line with the 2D art, because that today is still amazing. My ideal look is something on the lines of the Sonic Channel art. I know a lot of people like to say Yuakawa art or the adventure style, but I think the characters in the Sonic Channel art look fantastic. But at the very least, the Sonic characters should look how they looked back in Secret Rings, because that, in my opinion, is the best Sonic has looked in 3D, proportionally and aesthetically. It does everything right for a Sonic model, but I really do we get an art style change, because look at Mario and now recently Pikachu. They're starting to look more like their 2D art. No, I don't like the Pikachu one that much, but at least they're making that change. I want Sonic to follow suit. I think it's about time. Okay, now I spent half the video talking about models, let's talk about art style, which is arguably equally as important as the models. Sonic has been struggling to find an art style that makes him stand out from the crowd in recent years. I'd say it's since Lost World for some reason. The way that Sonic games just looked hasn't been as strong in recent years. Now this isn't me saying that every Sonic game should look the same, no, but they need to find an art style that makes them distinct from one another. Like example, the art style in the 90s was a blend of surrealism and a bit of fantasy, and while every game had a similar art style philosophy, each game felt unique. You can tell Sonic 2 from Sonic 3, or Sonic 1 from CD, despite CD basically being the CD version of Sonic 1, or even games like Sonic Adventure 1 to Adventure 2. Those games have a completely different art style, but they're still very strong and iconic because the unique locations in the games and the aesthetics of each games are strong. Honestly, every game in the 2000s has a different art style, but because the art styles are so strong, they still look great on their own, with the exception of 06, because that game just graphically and on the technical side holds that game's art style back too much. But a perfect example of what I'm talking about is Sonic Unleashed. Yeah, if you look back at the game with a fine comb, the game's texture quality and model quality and overall graphical quality on a technical side leaves a lot to be desired and hasn't aged that well, but the visuals still hold up to so many people to this day because the strong art style and aesthetic carry that game, and it makes the game look timeless. But when we look at Lost World, yeah, the game technically is polished, but lacks a strong or original art style. Frontiers is infamous for having a bland and generic art style with environments that are look straight up pulled from like a marketplace, and also lacks technical polish. Superstars, while I like how it looks, I can understand if you don't like it because the textures feel really plasticky and low quality, and the models aren't super up to snuff either. I say this though, the two most recent games, Shadow Gens and Crossworlds, have really upped their game. Shadow Gens, while it does reuse assets because it's a Gen spin-off, the game still technically looks incredible. Besides White Space though, I still think the game lacks a strong art style. But Sonic Crossworld seems to finally be finding a balance of both. The game includes a ton of new locations with very unique and strong art styles, like Coral Town, and on top of that, the game is still technically really sound. It does have those Unreal Engineisms where the daytime looks kind of overblown, but it still looks really cool, and I honestly think it's the best looking Sonic game of the 2020s. Overall, what I want from the next Sonic game is it to have an art style that is strong and timeless, but is also technically polished. I want the games to have the same polish as Mario or Sonic. Like when I look at those games, they look and feel polished. I want Sonic to have that same feeling. And finally, animation and rigging. Now, I actually think the animation in recent Sonic games has been starting to take a step up in the higher quality. Shadow Gens probably being the best example, having some of the best gameplay animation and some of the best cutscene animation in the Sonic series. Shadow actually animates with his eyebrows, which was something the characters just stopped doing for some reason. The characters' movements also feel way more lively, and in Crossworlds, the characters also animate very well, especially in the rival interactions. But what really gives me hope is this. Earlier this year, we got to see behind the scenes work on Shadow Gens, and with that, we got to see Sonic Team working on some quote-unquote experimental animation techniques. Oh my god, I haven't seen Sonic move this expressively in a Sonic game in ages, probably ever, using squash and stretch, smear frames to imitate fast movement, better follow-through motion, and better anticipation. My favorite shot out of all of this is this part where Sonic trips up and he spins out, and we see all the smear frames and exaggeration and all the movement. But when he hits that final pose, I got the biggest "we are so back" feeling I've ever gotten before. And this other scene where they remade the mirror scene from Generations, it gives off Night of the Werehog vibes, honestly. I will say the squats and stretch is a bit much, but if they can dial it in and perfect it, we could have something really special on their hands. So out of all the things in this video, I'm probably the least worried about the animation. It looks like they're getting that nailed down pretty good. Overall, despite how much Sonic has improved over the years, the games still feel like they haven't gotten down the visuals quite right. From the models to a lack of a strong art style and aesthetic, with the one thing that looks promising right now is the animation. Now, usually I would be like, oh, I'm sure they'll make these changes in the next game, I'm sure of it. But I'm not. Out of everything Sonic Team has done in the past 6 years, this has been the thing I'm the least confident on. I feel like Sonic should have gotten the art style change from Frontiers, and when they didn't do that, it got me really worried that they just won't do anything from the next mainline game. And it sucks, because everyone is getting a makeover. Pokemon, Mario, probably Zelda for the next game. Sonic wants to prove that they want to be on the same quality as Mario, but their visual representation isn't up to snuff. If things don't change for the next game, I'm going to get very worried, and I hope they do something, because I really don't want that to be the case. But that's really all I have to say for this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment down below. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with me? You guys disagree? Are you guys sick of this conversation? Let me know. I really did not want to make this video. I really was holding back. I've been holding back for years making this video. Trust me, this is the last thing I want to talk about. But for me, it has gotten to such a point where I literally cannot ignore it anymore. It's bothering me. It really is bothering me. And if you like the new model, that's fine. Or if you like the art style, whatever. But I really think it's a problem. If Sonic wants to be on that upper echelon of like AAA games, it has to improve its visual quality. But yeah, I'm not gonna really. That's all I have to say for today. I'm not gonna harp on it too long. This is probably the only time you'll ever see me talk about it, unless they change something. I cannot wait for that next mainline game to see if they change it. I need like a confirmation. I need reaffirmation or affirmation that they've done something. But who knows? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But that's really all I have to say for today. I'll see y'all in the next one.